Moonlit Tales Asia presents stories from the past where love, fate, and darkness intertwine. Long ago, when the heavens still whispered to the earth and the stars carried the memories of gods and mortals alike, there lived a poor young man named Niulang. He lived in a small village hidden between green mountains and winding rivers. His parents had died when he was still a child, leaving him with nothing except an old ox and a tiny broken house at the edge of the fields. After their deaths, Niulang was forced to live with his older brother and sister-in-law. Though they were family, they treated him cruelly. Every morning before sunrise, he carried water from the river, chopped wood beneath the cold mountain wind, and worked endlessly beneath the burning sun while the others rested inside the warmth of the house. Yet Niulang never complained. There was a gentleness in his heart that hardship could not destroy. At night, he would sit beside the old ox beneath the stars. The village would grow, quiet as silver moonlight covered the hills, and the sound of insects drifted through the summer air. Sometimes Niulang would gaze toward the endless heavens above him and quietly wonder if somewhere in the world there existed someone who might one day understand his lonely heart. Years passed, and Niulang grew into a hardworking young man. His clothes remained simple and worn, yet his spirit stayed kind and humble. One day, his older brother decided he no longer wished to care for him. He forced Niulang to leave the family home with almost nothing. No money, no fertile land, no proper shelter. The old ox Niulang bowed silently and walked away without anger. Together, he and the ox traveled toward the far edge of the valley where wild grass swayed beneath open skies. There he built a small cottage with his own hands beside a rough patch of earth filled with weeds. And Stone's life was difficult but peaceful. For the first time, the little home belonged entirely to him, far above the mortal. Whirled beyond the clouds and stars stood the heavenly palace. Golden towers shimmered beneath eternal light, while rivers of silver mist flowed endlessly through the heavens. There lived Zhinu, the weaver girl daughter of the heavenly queen. And the Jade Emperor Zhinu was renowned throughout heaven for her beauty and grace. But more than that, she possessed extraordinary skill. Each day she sat beside a celestial loom weaving brilliant silk that became the clouds, sunsets, dawn skies, and shining stars seen across the heavens. The immortals admired her greatly. Yet, despite the beauty surrounding her, Zhinu often felt deeply alone. Life in heaven was perfect. Nothing changed, nothing faded, nothing truly belonged to the heart. Immortals did not dream recklessly. They did not laugh loudly. They did not love passionately. Sometimes while weaving beside the stars, Zhinu would look down upon the mortal world below. She saw children chasing one another through fields, old fishermen singing by rivers, young lovers walking beneath glowing lanterns at night. Mortals suffered greatly. They grew old. They lost those they loved. Their happiness never lasted forever. And yet their lives seemed strangely warm compared to the endless stillness of heaven, deep within. Her heart Zhinu longed to understand the world below. One summer evening, Zhinu descended secretly to earth together with several heavenly maidens. They traveled through drifting clouds until they arrived at a hidden lake surrounded by pine forests and mountains. Moonlight shimmered upon the water like flowing silver mist, curled softly through the trees while the sound of crickets echoed through the night. The maidens laughed joyfully as they removed their celestial robes and entered the cool lake. Not far away, Niulang was returning home beside his old ox after a long day of labor. Suddenly, the ox stopped walking. Then, to Niulang's astonishment, it spoke, "Beyond the forest lies your destiny." Niulang froze in disbelief. The ox had never spoken before. "Go to the lake. There you will meet the one destined for your heart pounding." Niulang followed the narrow forest path beneath the trees until he reached the lake. The sight before him stole his breath away. Moonlight danced upon the water. Silver mist floated gently across the surface. And standing beneath the stars was a young woman more beautiful than anything he had ever imagined. Zhinu turned toward him for a brief moment. Neither of them spoke. Niulang had never seen such beauty before, yet it was not merely her appearance that moved him. There was something gentle and sorrowful in her eyes that felt strangely familiar, as though he had known her somewhere beyond memory itself. Zhinu gazed at the young man standing shyly among the trees. Unlike the immortals of heaven, his eyes held warmth, honesty, and life. She should have returned immediately. Instead, she smiled, and in that single moment, destiny quietly changed forever. The other maidens soon departed, fearing the wrath of heaven if they remained too long, but Zhinu stayed behind. Night after night, she met Niulang beside the hidden lake beneath the moonlit pines. They spoke for hours beneath the stars. Niulang told her about life on Earth, about planting rice beneath, summer rain, about winter snow covering the mountains, about the sound of children laughing in the fields, and the sorrow of losing loved ones. Zhinu listened with fascination. In return, she spoke of celestial rivers, golden palaces, and the silent eternity. Of heaven together, they watched fireflies drifting through the darkness, while soft wind rustled through the trees. For the first time in her immortal existence, Zhinu felt truly alive. And for the first time in Niulang's lonely life, he no longer feared. Tomorrow, as the seasons passed, love blossomed between them as naturally as flowers blooming after winter. Zhinu made a choice that would alter heaven itself. She abandoned immortality. She remained on Earth with Niulang together. They built a humble life, beside the fields and mountains. Their home was small but filled with warmth and laughter. During the mornings, Niulang worked tirelessly beneath the sun, while Zhinu sat beside the window, weaving cloth more beautiful than anything the villagers had ever seen. Its colors shimmered like dawn skies after rain. People traveled from distant villages simply to see the miraculous silk created by her gentle hands. Years passed peacefully, and soon 2 children were born, a son with bright, curious eyes, and a daughter whose laughter echoed like music through the valley. The little family lived simply but happily. Sometimes during quiet evenings, Zhinu would hold her children close while watching the stars appear one by one across the night sky. And though heaven still glittered far above, she felt no regret, because for the first time, she understood why mortal hearts cherished love so deeply. It was precious, because it could be lost, but no secret beneath heaven remains hidden. Forever, one night, celestial guards discovered traces of Zhinu's divine power lingering upon the mortal world. Word soon reached the heavenly queen, for he shook the heavenly palace, and whoa, dare she abandon heaven for a mortal? Dark clouds gathered above the earth, thunder rolled across the mountains, the wind howled violently through the valley. That night, heavenly soldiers descended from the sky in flashes of silver light. Zhinu was seized. Before she could escape, Niulang returned home carrying flowers for his children, only to find the valley shrouded in unnatural silence. The birds had stopped singing, the wind itself seemed frozen. Then he saw them. Celestial warriors stood before his home, while Zhinu struggled desperately against them, tears streaming down her face. Niulang, she cried. He ran toward her in terror and desperation, but a powerful force hurled him backward onto the ground. The children screamed as heavenly light filled. The sky Zhinu reached desperately toward her husband. "I will come back to you." Then she vanished into the heavens. The skies closed behind her, leaving only silence and darkness. Niulang collapsed to his knees, overwhelmed by grief so deep, it felt as though the world itself had been torn apart. Days passed like endless winters. His children cried for their mother every night. The warmth had vanished from their home. Even the fields seemed lifeless beneath the cold wind. One evening, the old ox approached him quietly. Its wise eyes reflected the crimson light of sunset. "The bond between you and Zhinu was written by fate itself," the ox said softly. "Not even heaven can erase it completely." Niulang lifted his head with trembling hope. "How can I reach her?" Old ox remained silent for a long time before speaking again. "My life is nearing its end. When I die, use my hide to create magical sandals. They will allow you to ascend into the heavens." Tears filled Niulang's eyes. The ox had been his only companion. Since childhood, the thought of losing it felt unbearable, but the old ox simply gazed toward the stars. All things must someday part. That is the law of both heaven and earth. That night, beneath a sky overflowing with stars, the faithful ox peacefully breathed its last breath. Niulang wept beside it until dawn, yet he honored its final wish. With trembling hands, he fashioned magical sandals from the ox hide. Then, placing his children into baskets carried across his shoulders, he stepped into the sky, the Winds of heaven swirled around him as clouds drifted beneath his feet. Stars shimmered closer than ever before, while endless rivers of silver light stretched across eternity. At last he saw the heavenly palace in the distance, and there, standing upon a bridge of clouds, was Zhinu. The moment she saw Niulang approaching with their children, joy flooded her face. Niulang, she ran toward him through tears of happiness. For one beautiful moment, it seemed that nothing in existence could separate them again. But suddenly the heavens trembled violently. The heavenly queen appeared surrounded by blinding light and terrible fury. "You dare defy heaven itself!" she thundered. Drawing a golden hairpin from her crown, she slashed it across the sky. Instantly a vast river of stars burst into existence between the lovers. The celestial river roared endlessly across the heavens, shining with cold silver light. The Milky Way Niulang stumbled backward, holding his children tightly, while Zhinu cried out from the opposite. Sighed their voices echoed across eternity, yet neither could cross the celestial river separating them. The heavenly queen turned away coldly. "From this day onward you shall remain apart forever." And so the lovers stood upon opposite sides of the stars, forever able to see one another, yet forever beyond reach. But even heaven itself could not remain untouched by such sorrow. The cries of Niulang and Zhinu spread throughout the heavens. The immortals whispered sadly among themselves. Even the stars seemed dimmer than before. Then something extraordinary happened. Thousands upon thousands of magpies rose into the sky from forests, mountains, and distant rivers across the earth. Moved by compassion, the birds gathered together across the Milky Way wing. By feather, they formed a living bridge between the separated lovers. Seeing this, even the heavenly queen hesitated. At last she spoke. "Very well. Once each year on the 7th night of the 7th lunar month, you may cross the bridge and reunite." And so it became every year when summer winds drift gently across the earth and the stars shine brightest in the heavens, the magpies gather once more. For one precious night, Niulang and Zhinu are reunited upon the bridge of birds beneath. The endless stars. They embrace one another while tears of joy fill their eyes. Their children laugh within their parents' arms once more. And though dawn always arrives too soon, forcing them apart again, their love continues to endure across eternity. Centuries passed. Dynasties rose and vanished into dust. Kingdoms disappeared. Names of emperors faded from memory. Yet the story of the Cowherd and the Weaver Girl survived through generations. Poets wrote of them beneath candlelight. Painters captured their sorrow. Upon silk scrolls, lovers prayed beneath the stars for devotion as eternal as theirs. Even now, on quiet summer nights, two stars still shine brightly on opposite sides of the Milky Way. People say they are Niulang and Zhinu, forever watching one another. Across the river of heaven, and when rain falls during the 7th night of the 7th lunar month, some believe it is the tears of the lovers, as dawn forces them apart once more. Others believe those tears are not sorrow at all, but joy, because despite heaven, despite fate, despite eternity itself, they still find one another again and again beneath the endless river of stars. This story is retold and adapted by Moonlit Tales Asia. Inspired by traditional folklore, please do not copy, re-upload, or redistribute this content in any form without permission. People traveled from distant villages simply to see the miraculous silk created by her gentle hands.